Speaker, I seek leave for the Canterbury Earthquake Response and Recovery Bill to be introduced and passed through all stages, and if required for the completion of that business, the sitting of the House to be extended beyond 10 p.m.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There is no objection.
The Earthquake Response and Recovery Bill, introduction.
The bill is set down for first reading forthwith. The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Canterbury Emergency Response and Recovery Bill be now read a first time. Mr. Speaker, can I say that again? Mr. Speaker, I move that the Canterbury Earthquake Response and Recovery Bill be now read a first time. Mr. Speaker, it's now a matter of history that on Saturday, the 4th of September, 4:31 in the morning, Cantabrians were woken by the largest earthquake this country has seen for some time. The scale of damage from the earthquake and the hundreds of aftershocks since is something New Zealand has not seen in recent times. As a result of the devastation caused by these events, a state of emergency still is in place across Canterbury. The destruction caused to infrastructure and buildings across the Canterbury region is considerable. The damage is so substantial that recovery will be one of the most significant events in New Zealand's history. Estimates of damage vary, but the costs will run into some billions of dollars. And Mr. Speaker, we have to give thanks while we're talking about property damage that there was no loss of life. This miracle makes it easier for us to focus on rebuilding Canterbury and maintaining a positive frame of mind. Cantabrians have shown tremendous spirit to so rapidly reconnect and restore first Christchurch City and then the regions of Waimakariri and Selwyn District. Can I also thank the people outside the region who have so generously come to the aid of their fellow Kiwis. There are far too many to mention, but I would like to mention the officials of government who have worked so tirelessly over the weekend to put this bill together. We've all seen images, sir, of homes and schools wrecked by the tremendous force that was unleashed, of the towns and city centres where large numbers of buildings have been found to be damaged or inaccessible, and of the many churches and historic buildings shattered by the quake. Furthermore, sir, roads have moved, railway lines have been twisted, and farmlands have been so damaged by holes and fissures and tears that it cannot be safely used for livestock, and some cropping may be endangered. Vital infrastructure such as sewage work has been disrupted, although, sir, largely now reconnected, certainly in the heaviest urban areas. New Zealand is a country prone to earthquakes. We've known this for some time, and we've prepared for an event like this by establishing the Earthquake Commission, by strengthening our buildings, by having emergency contingency plans, and by having emergency kits in our homes. But we can never fully prepare or prevent the damage an earthquake like this, an earthquake of this magnitude, has caused. Mr. Speaker, I've spent a lot of time in Canterbury over the last 10 days and have seen for myself the damage in my home area. I've also seen firsthand the spirit of the people of Canterbury, and I must say I'm very impressed by the way in which they have worked tirelessly and carried out their responsibilities inside the different organisations of the region to get the place reconnected. When you look back, sir, over the last 10 days, and it only has been 10 days, the emergency response has been, to say the least, most impressive. All of those involved in achieving these results, I think, should be congratulated. It should be remembered that these people often left their own families and homes to help others. I spoke last Friday night to a group of people who've been helping connect water and sewerage in Christchurch City. Many of them left their homes at 5 o'clock on Saturday morning, simply leaving their wives, partners and family to themselves while they went out to help others. They did up to 100 hours work last week and achieved an enormous result. The same can be said for the power workers, the same could be said for the communications workers, all very impressive efforts. But the task ahead is enormous. The rebuilding and recovery may have begun, but Mr. Speaker, it's going to take a long time, and we are going to need the rest of New Zealand to lend a hand. The support offered by people from outside the region, the donations I've made to the Merrill Fund and to others, are all evidence of a willingness of this country to help out its fellow Canterburyans, or to help out Canterburyans. Mr. Speaker, I know the people of Canterbury welcome that support and thank their fellow New Zealanders for that help. But more help is needed. Mr. Speaker, if you consider that in 2009 there were a number of building consents or consents related to building issued around the country that goes to about 50,000. If you consider the scale of the destruction in Canterbury and were to apply similar consenting arrangements, then you could have every consenting officer in this country locked up in a consenting process for a number of years before anything was done in a practical sense. So, sir, business as usual won't work. And what we are finding is that some of New Zealand's legislation will need to be adapted to respond to special circumstances, to the responses to the circumstances that now exist in Canterbury, and in particular will apply when the state of emergency is lifted. So far, we've identified the need for modifying legislative requirements under the Resource Management Act, heavier than allowable loads being able to be taken to waste and carried into those landfills, streamlining of the Building Act processes to deal with dangerous buildings without delay, and to repairs and perhaps replacement of buildings as well, and of course flexible welfare support and payments for people in need. Mr. Speaker, to facilitate the Canterbury recovery, we need a mechanism that allows specific amendments to a range of legislation. This bill will be the House's expression of a strong desire to remove bureaucracy that could slow down the very necessary work we now have to do. I know this Parliament is united in its desire to assist Canterbury in every way it can, and on behalf of the people of Canterbury, I offer thanks for that. Therefore, today, sir, I'm introducing the Canterbury Earthquake Response and Recovery Bill to help Canterbury get past this disaster. Canterbury Earthquake Response and Recovery Bill enables the government to use orders in council to facilitate emergency responses and emergency recovery response. Orders in council will be used to tailor specific solutions to identified issues as the recovery progresses. Most importantly, orders in council will allow government to react quickly with the support of the whole Parliament. Just as orders in council can be made, they can also be revoked or replaced as needs change during the recovery process. The current state of emergency has allowed authorities in Canterbury to get on with the job of ensuring the health and safety of the residents while taking steps towards that ongoing recovery. Some of these actions would not be permitted in normal circumstances. A number of these activities need to continue immediately after the state of emergency has been lifted. And while retrospective provisions are usually not desirable, they are needed in this case to protect those who have taken necessary action in this period and immediately following the earthquake. While wanting to help remove impediments to the recovery of Canterbury, I'm mindful that we also need to be cautious in our approach. We don't want to remove, suspend or otherwise legislation that protects the people of Canterbury and may end up creating a perverse outcome. For this reason, I'm taking steps to ensure that the orders in council are used only for emergency response and recovery from the earthquake event. The first measure I'm proposing is that each order in council developed in response to the recovery will need to meet the tests of complying with the purpose of the bill. It must facilitate the response to the Canterbury earthquake. The orders in council in this legislation will only be in place while they are needed and for no longer than 1 April 2012. And those orders in council will be subject to the House's normal disallowance provisions. The bill also establishes the Earthquake Recovery Commission, on which the 3 district mayors of Christchurch, Waimakariri and Selwyn will be members. Later this week there will be 4 others added, including an ECAN commissioner to augment that that commission. Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to recognise that there is enormous capacity in the regions, in the districts, and that they do know what they need to recover. This mechanism will mean that they are easily able to connect with their counterparts in Wellington, and that the government has a clear path for offering assistance to them as they go through that recovery. But I stress again, it will be the people of Canterbury and their elected representatives who will be leading that recovery, with the government standing firmly behind them to give assistance where it needs. I want to close by offering my